Welcome back to the Inner Journeys Outer Adventures podcast. Today, I have another special guest, a friend, client of mine, and a very dear friend, Amelia Daniels. Welcome, Amelia.
Thanks, Corey.
So we've had many conversations since I've trained you for a
have.
couple years now, and I've trained your children. And the thing that I've learned most about from you recently is how much of a spiritual person you are and the learning that you've done with that. But you're also a person that has deep roots in fitness as well.
Too.
So let's start there. Let's start with fitness, because this is a little bit of a fitness podcast as well.
Yeah.
So I understand that you have run the Boston Marathon multiple times.
I have. And I kind of think fitness and my spirituality go hand in hand a lot. And running was one of the first things I gravitated towards. I wasn't ever in competitive sports in high school, but I did run track very casually.
What do you mean by very casual?
Well, I was only in it because my friend Kathy was in it, and her mom could drive me because my parents owned a business and they weren't able to take me. So she asked me, I was like, sure. And then I did track a couple years, but I hated, you've heard this, I hated the starting blocks. I got really nervous. But then once I was running, I was like, oh, I really love this.
What were your races?
I ran the 200 and the 400.
Oh, okay. So you're a speedy one.
I guess. Yeah. And then I took up distance, like in college, just for fun.
Right. And you had a group of people that you ran with?
Yes. I had friends in college that I would run with. Now, I really like the social aspects of that and the camaraderie and motivating each other. Mm-hmm. And then after college, I wanted to run a marathon. And so that's what started my love
Why did
of
you want
distance.
to run a marathon?
I don't know. I just started to really like the distance. And like, as I added more miles, I was like, oh, this feels really good to run this distance. And I just only knew of marathons in terms of a long distance race kind of thing that you could do. So.
Okay. All right. What do you think you got out of running distance in your personal life?
Well, you just feel stronger as you, train more, and then thinking something seems so far or unattainable, and then as you just keep at it, you can get to that distance. And then I think a lot of things in running, like the weather or the hills or downhills, that they are very comparable to things in life. You know, sometimes it's rainy in life, sometimes it's windy, sometimes there's really hard hills to get up, and sometimes you can coast downhill, and then just how you feel physically on one day a run can feel really easy, and another day that the same kind of run can feel more challenging, and just kind of keeping that one foot in front of the other. Yeah, it just became a nice metaphor for life, and I think it built my confidence, and because of that, because there's so much comparability to difficult times and difficult weather and things.
So you would say did you like instantly recognize how running is almost very similar to life? And were you very aware?
I think my awareness, I think I always knew I liked movement. And then I think I maybe became more aware of like what my body could do. And then with that awareness of what my body could do, I started to, make the connection. It was probably a slow evolution. Yeah.
When did you run your first marathon?
I was a year out of college, so I was 23.
23.
Yes. And I didn't even know about the Boston Marathon, so I wasn't even going for any certain time. I just wanted to finish. And I didn't qualify at that one, but then I did another one a few months later, and I qualified. And everyone kept telling me, you qualified for Boston. And I was like,
what's
oh,
that?
I did? What's that?
Okay. So on your second marathon ever, you qualified for the Boston Marathon.
I did.
That's pretty impressive.
Thanks. And then everybody kept asking me, are you going to run it? I'm like, I don't know. And I thought, oh, sure, I will.
So when did it become a little bit more competitive for you?
That's a good question. So it took a while. I would say when I realized maybe 5 years in after my first marathon, and I was doing 1 or 2 a year at that point, because I noticed that people started really like watching my times or were very interested in how fast I ran. And then I think I became a little like maybe a little prideful about wanting to do well because other people were watching.
So it felt good?
Yes, it felt good. But then after a lot of years, it sort of felt like there was external expectations which weren't really maybe helpful.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Let's go along that path a little bit there. So where first you started getting the attention of others. In how did you feel? What did you think about that? And how did it evolve a little bit?
Well, I started running because I just loved running.
Right.
And then it became a camaraderie thing. Like I had people that I could run with, and that was really fun. And then I started to get, I guess I noticed that people were interested in my running. And then I think that just like anything that we become too attached to, it can be not necessarily a good thing. So I think when I started to just see that people were really, really watching what I was doing, then it became maybe I thought the love of running started to be outweighed by people's expectations. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I'd have a bad race, then I'd be like, oh no. So that was just my own insecurity probably coming out.
Go deeper into that. Oh no, what? Like you're letting them down, or?
Well, maybe because I was becoming too attached to what people were thinking, that then I lost doing it just for my own self and my own sense of accomplishment.
Okay.
Yeah, that took a lot of years, though.
Yeah.
I would say 10 years in, maybe.
10 years.
Yeah.
And towards the end, you were noticing that you aren't really doing it for yourself anymore. You're doing it for the expectations of others.
Yeah.
And
that was like 20 years in.
Okay.
Then
that was 20 years in.
Yes. I would say the last 5 years. And that's probably why I got burnt out. And I think that's why people do get burned out, because they're maybe doing things for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's no longer for themselves and what they get out of it personally. It's performing.
Yeah, it's performative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you've done a little bit of preparation for this because I asked you, but what was your fastest Boston Marathon time? My fastest
Boston time was my very last one, and that was I did a 3:32.
3:32.
Yeah.
That's really, really, really fast.
Yeah.
In my mind. Because when I ran a marathon, it was like 4 hours and 20 minutes, and it was all very painful.
I get really euphoric, like especially at the very end. Like after the wall.
After the wall.
When you fight through the wall, which is around 22,
Mm-hmm.
then the last few miles, I'm very elated usually.
I haven't gotten that yet.
I hear that.
Neither
does my husband. And then I'm really annoying because we run together a lot.
You're all happy.
I'm really happy. I'm bouncing
and he's
around.
all like, this hurts. I don't want this to be done.
Yeah. Yep. He doesn't appreciate my elation. It's true.
I think that's a metaphor for life right there.
What?
Like there's happy-go-lucky people, and then there's some people that just don't want to deal with that happy-go-lucky people and how they view the world.
They're annoying. Yeah. Well, the whole marathon course can be a psychological study too. Or the extreme sports that you've done. You can see how your emotions change, and depending on your physical, what you're going through. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. If you want to go to the deepest parts of your brain and your emotions,
yeah,
do something that's this challenging.
Yes.
Like a marathon or an ultra marathon or something like that, or a Spartan race.
Yes.
It will show you who you truly are.
Yeah, it'll show you your grit.
Yeah.
It's true.
That is if you don't quit, if you don't give in.
Yes.
Because I have seen people quit.
And there have been races where I'm like, I gotta walk.
Yeah. Would you say it's quitting for you then?
Sort of, because not quitting, but it was like, I'm not gonna walk, and then.
You are a bit stubborn and competitive.
I can be.
I know that from you because I've trained you for a long time.
You also know that I smile when I'm in pain.
Yes.
And that's more like a purposeful thing. Like, I'm gonna it changes your outlook if you can smile through things. Like, this is painful.
Yeah.
This podcast. I'm just kidding.
It's not that bad. Yeah. Would you say smiling, you're trying to look at the positive side, or looking into gratitude or something while you're going through that pain?
Yes. Like, I'm really grateful I can do this. Or this too shall pass. Like little mantras in my mind.
I've used that one.
Yeah. This too shall pass.
Yep.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one.
That's from my mom. My mom said that.
Oh, really?
My whole life, yeah.
Your whole life?
Yeah. It was one of her little things that she would say to us.
Have you ever asked her, like, where she got it from?
I haven't. I didn't. Oh. She's not here anymore, but I didn't ask her.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm guessing, her dad died when she was really young. She had to help my grandma with, like, a lot of things in the house and her younger siblings. So maybe it came from my grandma. I'm not really sure.
Yeah. She dealt with adversity early on.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's always good to learn from somebody like that, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of life lessons that you learn through adversity.
Yes. And that's a very true statement, that this too shall pass.
Yes. Nothing will ever be permanent.
Nothing is permanent.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. So through your 20 years of running, how does your faith, your spirituality apply to it?
Well, I always think of, this is a biblical thing about our body as a temple.
Yeah.
And I do believe that's true. Our body is like the vessel for our souls, or our true divine selves. And I want to treat my temple really well. And so fitness is something that I feel like helps my body. It helps my mind. I feel like keeping my body in a good condition can carry me through difficult times. It can help me to help others. If I take care of myself, I can better help others. And so spiritually, I feel like that's what it's all about. Like, in order to stay connected to others, I want to be connected to myself and my body.
And fitness is one way of helping you connect to your body.
Yeah.
Body and mind.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It seems to be the one I gravitate towards the most. Yeah, is through exercise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like we've talked about meditation before, and when I first tried meditating, I was like, this is so stupid. I have to sit here and not think, and so I just got frustrated, and so I just decided to walk and use that as my meditation. So not running, but walking. And that proved to be very helpful. I think I had a lot of chatter in my mind and a lot of maybe my body, my nervous system was pretty ramped up, and so I think walking just kind of helped quell that. So it was a good entry for me until I was kind of, it's like something wound really tight until I was unwound enough that I could actually sit.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's talk about that process of unwinding you. How would you say, how did you get so tightly wound in the beginning, in the first place?
Well, I have 4 kids. I have a husband with a really busy job. Our kids were involved in a lot of things, and and my parents were, well, my mom in particular was sick at the time, and so I think I was just on like this hamster wheel of just like running and taking care of a lot of people, and I think I was then attached to the exercise as a way of, like, I thought it was a way of helping me de-stress, but I think everything was about pushing through and keep on taking care of everybody and then keep exercising. And I think I just was doing too much, and I didn't have awareness about it until my body kind of said, hold on a minute here, you're just doing too much. So I started to have a lot of like neck pain, and
Okay.
so it was more like my body saying, excuse me, can you just
Can you tune in?
bring
a
it
bit?
down some notches here? So, yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of things that was pulling your attention. You felt like you had to take care of a lot of different people, and you weren't necessarily neglecting yourself because you're still doing exercise, but maybe you're pushing too much.
I was pushing too much.
Too much with the exercise, which causes more stress than it does relief of stress.
Yeah.
Right. Why? So I feel like a lot of people take care of others before they take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you were at that point?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you start to unravel that?
Well, again, I think my body told me first, and then I had to listen. I was having some pain issues. I was like headaches and things like that, and I had to just take note. I had to it's kind of like you get. I had to take a seat, I guess, and just sit and rest. And I didn't like resting, but then I just sort of realized maybe this is what my body's telling me I need.
How long did it take you to realize that?
Yeah, things got pretty bad. I wasn't going to talk about all this, but I started to have like vision issues, and I was going to the doctor to see what was going on. Like I was having veiling, like where my one eye would look, it would look like a shade was pulled down over it.
Oh, okay.
So I started going to see doctors, getting eye exams, and so I had a lot of tests. I had a lot of eye exams. I had they wanted to take ultrasound of my like carotid artery to make sure that there wasn't any blockage there. And then in the end, I ended up having an MRI of my brain to make sure that everything was okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but everything kept coming back that it was fine. And, but I knew I was clearly having some physical manifestations of whatever was going on. And I don't know, a wise friend just said, do you think it's stress? And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So.
Do you have like a low point? Like a lot of people say like they have a rock bottom before they start.
A low point in terms of that whole situation?
Yeah, what did you say? It was like when your friend reached out to you about it, or is it the veiling, all these doctor visits?
Yeah.
Not to say that you necessarily had a low point.
Well, that whole time was pretty low. Like, there was my parents were, my mom was not doing really well, and then we had to end up moving my parents. So there was just a lot. The whole time was kind of difficult.
Yeah.
And then to have the physical manifestations on top of it, the whole 6 months, it was about 6 months.
Okay.
Was pretty low. And then that's when when we finally got my parents moved and settled, then I started to feel a little like, I wasn't as worried, like an exhale.
Yeah.
And then I just, I started yoga teacher training, which was it's a good way to learn about yourself. So I gained a lot of awareness through that.
So is this starting to be where you put more of a prioritization on like your spiritual life and
Yes, exactly.
that part of you?
Exactly. That's where the meditation started to come in.
Okay.
Which was difficult at first. Yes.
I think it's difficult for everyone at first.
Yes.
Because me and you have had conversations about how it's like sometimes it's like a little bit of woo, as you like to put it.
I say I'm woo-woo.
Yeah, a little woo-woo. A little out there.
Yep.
Where, at least in our culture, in the United States, this isn't something that's like really just a part of the culture of like alternative ways of, I don't know, how would you put it?
Just being with yourself or being with spirit or, with God.
Yeah. So what would you say is the difference, because you kind of said with spirit, with God, what would the difference between like religion and spirituality? Is there a difference?
Yes, I think so. I knew you were going to ask that, and this is difficult to articulate, but I think I grew up religious, so we went to church as a family, and I'm really glad that I was brought up in faith. That's something I really value. But I think it took until my adult life, until my 40s probably, where I realized that it's not about just going to church and reciting certain prayers. It's more of a relationship. So I think spirituality is my relationship with, I say God, but some people say the divine or the universe, or I have no judgments on those things. But I say it's a personal relationship. And so if you have a friend that you're only calling because you want to ask them something all the time and you need something from them, that might feel kind of one-sided. So I think the relationship has to be, and also how much time do you spend with, a friend?
Yeah.
If you only spend, twice a year, Christmas and Easter or something, or and only when when something's going wrong, that's not really a relationship. So I think of it, spirituality as my relationship with spirit, and how much time I spend, and how from the heart I'm speaking to that. It's what I think of as spirit. I think that's spirituality versus religion, where you're maybe just going to a place or going through certain rote prayers or
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I've ever been told that or thought of it that way. Growing up, I was taken to a Lutheran church. Went to Bible school, got confirmed, baptized, all of that. I don't know. Probably the message there was, have a relationship with God. But it definitely never hit me. I never understood that. It's the two-way channel, right? And like you're saying, you have to spend more time in that relationship if you want to develop it.
Yep.
And you can't just expect to go to church once a week, say a prayer, go through communion if that's what they do at your church, and expect there to be that relationship, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So what do you think people get wrong about spirituality?
I don't know if there's, I don't, that's an interesting question because I've been really thinking a lot about, there doesn't have to be a right way. I always talk about, like, if you think of being like as unconditionally loving as God, if that's like our goal, then like that's the mountaintop, is being in that unconditional love. And I've realized that there's a lot of different ways up the mountain.
Okay.
Like, and so I don't know if anybody's doing it wrong. It just, some of us, including myself, maybe take a really long way up. Meandering back and forth and maybe heading down for a little bit and then heading back up. I think it's just, not to sound cliche, but it's a journey. And I think the one thing I guess I've learned recently is that it doesn't have to look a certain way, and that we can chart our own spiritual path, because we're all different people and different things are going to resonate with us differently. So for me, like, I enjoy journaling and like journaling to God, or journaling prayers, and some people that might not resonate with them. I also like music, or like mantras, like repeating things, and that might not resonate with other people. So I think there's just a lot of different ways up the path, and I don't know if anybody's doing anything wrong. It's just you just got to find. It's good to keep trying different ways. I think listening, though, is one thing that maybe we don't do enough. It's just and that's where maybe the meditation comes in, just sitting in quiet and listening.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to sit with ourselves.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I know many people,
Yes.
I mean, including myself at times in my life, where they want to do anything but that.
Yes. We can scroll, we can play music, we can just call people, we can busy ourselves with things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think it's so difficult for people to sit with themselves?
Yeah, I don't know. We're scary. Because you have to really sit in the discomfort of certain feelings and maybe thoughts. Because when it's quiet, you're just kind of left to your own thoughts and feelings, and sometimes that's uncomfortable.
So in the beginning, you said meditating when you're just sitting was very difficult for you. Was because of the thoughts and feelings that came up, or?
Yeah, I think I was probably in a state of maybe grieving a little bit with everything that was happening with my parents, and so it was hard. It was hard to sit in that. I wanted to maybe run from those feelings, but then back to that. This too shall pass. So you have to let things pass through. You have to feel them and let them pass through. Otherwise, they'll just kind of hang around.
Yeah.
What we resist persists. So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, you can steal it.
What we resist persists.
Persists, yeah.
So if you're resisting these emotions, if you're resisting these feelings that are constantly coming up, they will never resolve.
Right.
You're going to deal with them for life.
Right.
Until you can sit with the emotion.
Yeah.
Process it.
Yep.
And then move on.
Yeah.
Has that something you've gained a better understanding of with your spiritual practice?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'm still working on that. Like, there's some days I just don't want to sit because I'm going to be uncomfortable with something. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing this?
Well, I'm never super consistent. Like sitting in silence.
Well, just your whole spiritual practices and the things that you've learned and done
Okay.
over
The
the years.
spiritual part rather than the religious part, probably 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
So actually, let's take it back to when you were first started like trying to meditate. When was that?
That was like 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say 12 years that you've been on this journey, this inner journey of your spirit.
Yeah.
And you still, to this day, is difficult. I think that's an important point that I wanted to get there because I think everybody thinks that after a month, after a year, that this all becomes easy.
No.
That I should just be able to sit down, nothing uncomfortable comes up, and I can go into this, right?
Right. That's not how it works.
Not how it works.
Nope.
Even though we wish so badly that that's how life works.
Yeah. That's why one of my favorite, this is Sharon Salzberg. I don't know if she originally said it, but she says it a lot. She's a meditation teacher. She says you can always begin again. And so, yeah, I have
What does that mean to you?
to, like if I feel like I'm not sitting or in quiet, I can begin anytime that I want to
Okay.
or need to or
So it's not like just because at this moment I can't sit with it doesn't mean that I can not start again
Yes.
at another time.
yes.
Like I'm not a failure
Right.
because I couldn't do it
Right.
at this moment.
Right.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. I think that's pretty useful.
Yes. I think so too.
What other things have you found that have helped you a lot on this journey?
On my spirituality, like going
Yes.
deeper.
Yep.
Well, I've taken a class recently. It's probably my favorite class. It was called Praying Like a Priestess.
Praying like
It was a group of women, and we learned about. It's led by an interfaith minister, who I just really like her whole approach. And she's one of the people that said there's no wrong way really to pray, and and I think just doing that in a community, like connected with other people, sharing experiences, sharing, just realizing that you're not alone on this journey, or you're not alone when you have struggles. That's been really helpful. So what your question was? What else has been helpful?
That is helpful. Community.
Yeah,
Right?
community
That's a big
for sure.
piece.
Yep, feeling connected with other people in that. I guess just sharing more, not making it some of my practices or thoughts or feelings, not keeping them just to myself, just sharing them, having conversations with people about faith, and that's been really helpful.
Why would you say that's been helpful?
Um,
Instead of keeping it to yourself, you're sharing it with others.
yeah, because then they'll tend to share too, and I think none of us know any of this for sure. I don't think so. It's just always interesting to hear other people's perspectives and learn from other people. Mostly that, just learning, sharing, being open, being curious. Curiosity's been really helpful
Yeah.
for me.
Would you say, I know for myself, instead of keeping it private and sharing it with others, it's a little bit freeing, I would say. Because sometimes it feels like, I'm just going to call it inner demons that we have things that we keep to ourselves, and almost maybe we feel shame about it or guilt.
Right.
It holds power over you,
Mm-hmm.
and it holds you back from becoming who you're supposed to be, I would say.
And I think that's very true. And if you feel shame, that means you're keeping something in the dark, and then that's where shame likes to grow. And so if you, bring it out. And a lot of times when you share something and you think, oh, no one else has felt this, and then you realize a lot of other people have felt that. Yeah.
It's funny how we all are humans, and we all have a lot of shared experiences, yet we think we are unique in the experience that we are currently having.
Yeah. I think that was, now that I'm reflecting a lot on this class, and I think maybe why I got the most out of this class, because I've done a lot of other classes, was because I felt really safe to be pretty vulnerable in sharing things. And so did the other people in the group. And I think we all just were that much more elevated in our spirituality because we were such a willing to share group of people. And I think a lot of that, the tone was set by our teacher too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the people that are participating in this class, have they been in a lot of the same classes as you, or is it all new people?
They were all new to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Being able to create that safe place of vulnerability to where everybody feels like they can share.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But like you said, the leader of that class, the teacher of that class, almost set the tone for you guys to be able to.
Because she said there's no wrong way to, there's no wrong way to pray. She was just very, created a very loving, open, accepting environment. Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Let's dive deeper into meditation, because I think that's a tool a lot of people could use.
Yes.
And then we can talk about more of the tools
Okay.
that you've learned about, because I know you have more than just meditation.
I'm no expert.
I know you're not, but you know a lot.
Yeah.
You're very humble.
I'm a work in progress.
So if I'm a beginner in meditation, what are the things that are going to help me be more successful in it? Where does my mind need to be going into it?
Just curious, I would say, is number one, being curious, and just being aware, and non-judgmental. Those are probably my top three.
Okay. So if I'm starting my meditation, how long should I go?
You're just starting out? I started trying like 20 minutes, and that when I first started, that was just like way too long.
Okay.
So, I think it just depends where you're at. Again, I was very activated. I would say like my nervous system was very activated just with everything that I had going on in my life. So 20 minutes was probably a little long. I don't think there's any rules on that. Again, like it's very individual.
Yeah.
I think even 5, like there's studies that say 2 minutes is effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start at 2 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to try to be curious. Mm-hmm. And when you say curious, am I trying to curious, aware, non-judgmental? I think all those kind of play together.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Of what are my thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to be ashamed of whatever thoughts come up.
Nope.
I don't have to judge whether this is good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be quiet.
In your brain?
Yeah.
In your mind? Oh, no. That's, yeah.
Because I think what people get a little too hung up on is meditation, you should be quiet. It should be this wonderful silence.
Right.
No
right.
thoughts, no feelings, no emotions.
Right. That's not
what
it looks
here,
like. Right.
Like a monk.
Yeah. No thoughts. Right. So my mind is pretty busy. I think I I've told you I'm like the wind. Like I have a lot of, my thoughts are all over the place a lot of times, and I'm creative, so I have a lot of creative thoughts going on, and I'll just kind of watch my thoughts, and then to not. When I first started, I would get mad at myself, like, oh, can you just calm down? And then I realized that I was just like being kind of mean to myself. Like, would I say that to you if I knew that you were, having all sorts of thoughts? Would I like get mad at you? I don't think so. So then I just learned the phrase like, oh, isn't that interesting? And about my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as I started to evolve more in my meditation, I would recognize emotions behind the thoughts.
Oh, okay.
That's a really big one, I would say.
I don't think I'm there yet.
Oh, well, and then I would realize like, oh, that thought has a lot to do with fear, or that thought has a lot to do with jealousy or something. And so then you kind of welcome the feeling. Hello, fear. And yeah, it sounds kind of goofy, but
no, that's actually a really interesting way to look at it. So you're naming the emotion, you're welcoming it, because you said hello.
Yes, hello.
You're welcoming it.
Yeah.
You're not ashamed of it, and you're trying to resist it.
Because then it persists.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
One of Sharon Salzberg, I've read her books and listened to her a lot, but she'll say you welcome them in for tea.
Welcome them in for tea.
Yeah.
Or
because
coffee.
all of our emotions they're trying to help us,
Yeah. And so I read into Stoicism a lot. In Stoic philosophy, we are the ones that put the judgment on whatever it is that is coming up. So if it's fear we're putting on the judgment on, that's bad. So it's actually us that is our harshest critic, and we don't have to have an opinion on these things. We don't have to put a judgment on these things.
Yeah.
So I think in that, like what you have learned and what I'm learning in a different philosophy are like on the same wavelength, on the same, reaching the same conclusion, I would say.
I used to get really caught up in this is good and this is bad, or my energy is good today and my energy is bad today. And I used to get really, really, really caught up in good and bad. And that's just judgments, and that's not helpful. And so I think we've talked about this before when we've been training, but certain emotions hold energy, like joy and love are really high energy emotions, and maybe like sadness or shame are really low vibration, but they're not good or bad. They're just different vibrations. And yeah, we want to move to the higher vibrations ideally, but there's a purpose for the other ones too.
Right. Okay. I really like that thought on meditation. I think that's actually a really good tool for people to use.
I probably learned it from somebody. I don't think it's original to me, but
we all learn from other people, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that you haven't cultivated your own knowledge and you've created it for yourself, right? You've took it from other people and you've brought it into yourself and you've morphed it to where it suits you better, right?
Yes.
So we're all learning from everybody.
And what works for me.
Right. Exactly. Other tools for meditation. For myself, I use an app called Calm App. I prefer unguided now and just sounds of nature.
Yeah.
And I've kind of tried to pull in some of aspects of what Tony Robbins does with, he calls priming. So he has like 3 gratitudes, and then you're like breathing in what he calls white light or gold light or silver light, down into the ground, and then you're breathing it out, coming up and down. And then thinking about things in your journey that you want accomplished. And you're thinking about it like it's already done and feeling like it's already done and already accomplished. Yep. So in that priming practice, what I've done a couple times, I'm trying to bring in the gratitude piece where you're trying to go back to a moment that you felt grateful or you are now grateful for that moment. So you're trying to place yourself in that state of gratitude, which I would say is that higher frequency.
Absolutely.
Because
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, gratitude is joy, I would say, internal joy. Dave has a thought about that, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. He would say happiness is external, joy is internal.
Yeah, I think joy is more like what would be the term? I think joy doesn't necessarily waver as much. Like it's not as dependent on circumstances. This is my thing, but I feel that joy is when you're really connected with spirit or with your like truest self. That's joy, and like nobody can take that from you. Happiness, maybe I'm saying similar to Dave, but happiness seems like it can fluctuate a little bit, or a lot, depending on what's going on. But just being connected and knowing I am like my truest self is love and joy. That'll always be inside me. I might not always, I always think of like a window, and like if there's a window and there's a really bright light like inside me, and there's a window where my bright light can shine through, other things in life can kind of fog up my window or dirty my window, but that bright light of joy and love is always still there. Or like a sunny day and there's clouds in the sky. Yeah. So I think joy is it's not as wavering.
Because joy, you're saying, is like your truest self.
Yeah.
And when you're connected to your truest self, you're feeling that joy.
Yeah.
So what are the things that are getting in the way of our truest self? And I think we've touched on them a bit.
Yes. Maybe just getting too caught up in like external things or people's opinions or I don't know, the weather. I don't know. Lots of things can affect our happiness, but our joy. I'm not sure I'm answering that very well. Let's see here.
That's all right. Well, I think you touched on a piece there of other people's opinions and expectations, and we've talked about that at the very beginning, where running was joy for you, and then the expectations and the opinions of others
fogged up the window.
Fogged up the window and concealed some of your joy for running.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you still find joy in running to this day?
I don't run like I used to, but when I do run, I feel pretty joyful about it. Yeah, because I'm just doing it for me and just to feel my body being able to move that way. Yes, but I don't run marathons anymore. I always say I'm going to come out of running retirement, but I haven't yet.
You could totally do it. You're in good enough shape to do it.
We'll see. Maybe.
But that's somebody else's expectation,
right? Yeah, I have to want to. Yeah.
Which I think is also another important piece of like, you shouldn't meditate just because we're telling you to.
Exactly.
You shouldn't journal just because we're telling you to.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do these tools just because someone else is telling you to. Yeah. You should do it for yourself.
Yep.
And because that's going to help you align with your truest self.
Yes.
right?
And there's lots of ways up the mountain.
Yeah.
But it's good to try a lot of these things because you won't know unless you try. Yeah.
So would you say, if we were just naming out tools here, meditation, journaling, like we said, would you say like reading scripture or?
Yeah, I've gone in phases with scripture. I'm not currently reading a lot of scripture, but I have, and that's been helpful. I find it confusing sometimes. It helps to be in a study, and I feel like there's some interpretation things that are, especially maybe as a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. So maybe that's why I kind of am not so into scripture currently. But I believe Jesus walked the earth and he's a cool person who had a lot of amazing things to say and teach us. Yeah, but I do read a lot of spirituality books.
Okay.
I do.
So books.
Yeah.
We'll say
books.
scripture/books.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are 3 tools there. I think connecting with your body probably is a very good tool. I would say for both of us, kind of the foundation, right? Because if you can't connect with your own body, if you're not training your body and mind through physical fitness, because I don't think you can get around it.
Right.
Right. If you were out of shape, how would you navigate this?
Yeah, well, being in shape makes sitting silently or whatever a lot more comfortable, for one thing. And physically, just kind of burning up some of that nervous energy. I think that's really helpful for that. Yeah, I don't know, because my whole life I've loved movement, so it's just hard for me to
See that
imagine,
side.
not being connected that way.
So we have 4 tools. Is there any other tools that you've learned about or used yourself?
Yeah, music.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah,
You did say
music is there's a lot of beautiful, not even just meditation music, like were you saying nature sounds?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah.
Yeah, nature sounds.
So there's that, but there's certain beats, are like drumming and things. But there's also just like modern day songs. Like the other day I had, I don't know who sings it, Bring Me a Higher Love. It's like from like the 80s.
Oh, yes. I like that song.
And I don't know, it just kept like coming into my mind. And I'm like, I feel like this is some sort of message or prayer or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even in just modern day songs, I think music is very powerful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? As far as tools?
I like mantras, like chanting.
Yeah.
I think there's a huge vibration that happens.
Okay. Give us an example.
Well, I have a mala, so it's a beaded necklace,
Okay.
and you can go around it and say your mantra,
Okay.
and or even just a word, and you can go around, and that repetition of word or sound, I just feel like is really calming.
But it helps you focus too, right?
Yeah, and the words mean something. They have meaning. And
Ideally,
yes,
and they have
ideally
meaning to you.
Yes.
So it's not just some random word that you found on the internet.
Well, if it means something to you, it can be.
Okay.
I think.
So
But, yeah.
helpful to search for it, but then you have to find something that it's actually going to connect deeply with you.
Yes, with you. Yes, exactly. Yeah, but I
Mantra.
like mantra a lot. Yeah, I talked about journaling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah. Breathing. Pranayama, we call it in yoga. Breathing techniques,
Okay.
like breath holds, maybe box breathing, 4 inhales, retain for 4, exhale for 4.
Right.
Yeah, suspend for 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, things like that can be very calming and get you in. I like your word that Tony was saying, priming.
Yes.
Yeah, So there's a lot of ways to prime yourself. And then I think just sitting in quiet after some of these tools is good.
So
that's when you're listening.
Yeah, use some of the tools and then maybe try to sit in quiet.
Yeah.
Because you've calmed yourself down.
Yeah. I like the when I'm kind of just not feeling like I can motivate myself, sometimes the guided meditations on the apps are really good.
Yeah.
I use Insight Timer.
Insight Timer.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
What is something you've learned about spirit recently that you think is a little woo-woo?
Okay. Well, I would say that there have been, the pandemic is a good example. There was just a lot of, I felt, even though like my whole family was home and I know a lot of people were locked down, I just had a really huge sense of loneliness, even though there was like people around my house all the time. And I think I really started to deepen some of my practices in the pandemic and since the pandemic. And I noticed that the more I'm connected to spirit, I don't have that sense of loneliness really anymore. Even though I'm probably alone more now because I'm almost empty nesting. So I just feel like if I'm connected to the love of God, then I don't feel lonely. And so my spirituality is really important and just helps me feel connected.
Okay. Awesome.
And never alone.
Never alone.
Never alone. So.
I like it. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I think we all learned a lot of things today. I know I have.
Oh.
I learned some really good tools, I think, and a different way of looking at meditation that I never thought of before or could dream up of, I think.
Thank you. I learn a lot from you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
In my fitness, and I love your curiosity. You're always asking me questions when we're training. And
it's fun to
I know
learn
you
from
have a mom, but I totally feel like your mom.
I'll just say it. You're like my spiritual mother.
I'm your spiritual mother. Thanks. It's a high compliment.
You deserve it.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for listening to the Inner Journeys, Outer Adventures podcast. We'll see you next time.